Welcome back to Partum the Mess, a podcast about humorous, inspirational, and educational experiences presented by first-time moms trying to navigate parenthood while keeping our sanity. I'm your host, Brittany, and we have our co-hosts, Codee.
Hi.
And Jess.
Hey.
This is episode 6, and today we'll catch up with you, and then Codee will share her story. So what's going on, you guys?
We just today had family come into town from out of town. Emmett's finally at an age where he's getting stranger danger. And so it's kind of weird learning how to navigate introducing him to family members that I want him to love, but not making it overwhelming or scary for him. Right. You know, like, how do I push him an appropriate amount without making him feel like he's been abandoned?
Right.
So we're navigating that right now, but it's been fine.
My kids, especially Swiss, she, as soon as she sees somebody like Phil's mom, she gets this, like you saw it today, she gets this face like, oh, my world. So I'm wondering, is Emmett similar? Like, you can see it on his face that's changing, or just like once you're gone, he melts, or out of the room or whatever, he melts down?
He's actually better when I'm gone. It's usually when he can see me that he wants me. Mm-hmm. But Emmett is not, like, I feel like he's not a super expressive baby in general. I think compared to your kids, who are just very expressive and smiley when they're happy and make sad faces when they're sad, he's pretty, like, level most of the time. And so he's good until I hand him over, and then he'll either just start fussing or, like, lean back to me. And so that's how I know. But sometimes he's, like, weirdly just fine with people. And I don't know what it is. Like, what has made him comfortable? Even strangers. Like, sometimes he's just good with strangers that want to hold him, and I can even be there. And then other times it's people that he knows that he's just not interested in at the time. So,
I read, actually this week, I read an email, I can't remember who it was from, but one of the pages I follow that was saying that that's a sign of them being, like, having healthy brain development to actually have separation anxiety. And I thought, oh, okay, good. Swiss is doing great, but does... Then I, like, flipped on the other side because Buddy's like, great, like, he's ready to move out, you know, or whatever. I mean, he's still happy to see me, but if there's any comfort, supposedly that's healthy.
No, that is good. That is good to know.
Yeah.
So, a question for you guys, since I haven't gone through this yet, with Jamie, do you have particular things that you would say to the adults or to the strangers to, like, mitigate the situation? Or because I know sometimes they can feel rejected or uncomfortable, especially family members. Have you had any, like, situations like that, or needed to explain their behavior to the adults?
Well, you may have heard me say this to Phil's mom tonight. We saw her earlier today, and I usually say something like, oh, she's just tired, or she's been cranky all day.
Same.
Which, I mean,
Same.
yeah, which, like,
the tired card is good.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I usually think that's accurate.
Yeah,
like,
same.
You know?
It usually is because he's tired, or he's just woken up, or like, he's had a tired day. He's just had a fussy day, and he's not interested in being social. Right.
Which I think is kind of fair. Like, you've probably seen things like adults are allowed to have bad days, but when kids are cranky or whatever, it's quote unquote not okay, or whatever.
They're like bad kids.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like,
having a bad day.
I kind of feel like I don't really know how to say what I'm trying to say except for that, like, they are kind of tired a lot, probably. And so, like, it's obviously not a reflection on the person. I mean, maybe they're a scary person, but the people that we love, like our parents and things, are generally people that aren't scary. And so we are like, oh, it's no big deal. But I don't know. I always hope that they understand, like, that's just kind of how it goes. Kids don't like, at one point in their life, they don't like people that aren't their parents, you know?
Yeah. I think one thing that I've noticed has been effective with me is, and this may sound weird, this may not work for anyone else, but when I hand Emmett to someone, I don't give any attention after that point.
I think that's great.
Yeah. I've noticed with kids that I know, and with Emmett, if I hand him over and then I'm like, oh, Emmett, like, how are you doing? Like, looking, making eye contact, touching him, it's not good for him. He just wants me then.
Yeah.
But if I hand him and then I turn away, he's like, oh, okay. Who are you? Let's get to know each other, you know? Yeah. And I'm still in the room, and it's with people I trust and all of that, but I'm just not giving him my attention. And that seems to work. I don't know.
Yeah. Is that helpful?
Yeah. sounds good. I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, I like that. In fact, we were talking about, Codee and I were talking about, in our church, they stay with their parents until they're 18 months old, and then they go to nursery. And it's a pretty typical thing for parents to be uncertain about how their kids are going to respond, which makes sense because they could still have a lot of separation anxiety. And I was thinking about Buddy and Swiss and thought, I even said, oh, they'll be fine. And then today, she was tired. It was actually her bedtime when we were picking her up. And so, dropping her off was right after she woke up from a nap. So it's really hard to gauge, but I just mean, I don't know. It's always, plus that's going to be a few months down the road. So it depends on the moment. And our church goes right over nap time. So it's going to be a heyday.
You'll have to do a catch up on an episode once you put them in.
Yeah, let us know how
that
happens.
Also,
Emmett had his 10-month doctor's appointment this week. I think it was Tuesday. And he went and the doctor was asking, like, how does he do? Does he have stranger danger? And I was like, no, he's usually pretty okay. Like, he'll reach back for me if he wants. And then he had super bad stranger danger from his pediatrician. And I felt so bad because he was, like, losing it when he would try to check in his ears. And he was, like, grabbing my hair in my face. And I was like, okay, he has bad stranger danger just with you.
It's like those awkward timing kind of conversations.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure the doctor's not surprised. Meaning it's not the first time, but I also feel like he should have known he was setting himself up.
Yeah.
Or she.
Ask the question at the very end of the
I know. Then you can be like, do you want me to answer that? And I'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's everything new with us right now.
Lately, I've been seeing Buddy bang his head on the ground. You saw that the other day.
I did, yep.
It wasn't totally new that day that you saw it. It wasn't the first time he's done that, but he's at an age where it almost seems like it could be a tantrum, but it's not over like a tantrum thing. Like,
he continues on with life after.
Yeah, I know. He's like, and I'm wondering if it's related to teething. Like, if he's just like, I hurt so bad. You know, like, did you ever have a brain freeze when you were little and you're like, because that's how I would try to handle it. So maybe he's just my son.
He copes like you do.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Parenthood with Steve Martin? Early 90s, I think Keanu Reeves.
Oh.
One of his very first. It's hilarious, but there's one kid in there that just hits his head on everything. And like, he wears like a bucket and just runs into the water repeatedly. Highly recommend the movie, by the way. It's a great movie.
Going back to Buddy, my nephew used to do something similar. I think he's hit his head on the wall, which I've heard. Like, kids sometimes do things. So maybe it's like a sensory thing. Yeah. I don't know. And I'm not really worried about it because it's not hard enough that it's like he's bruising. Yeah. But
it's still not great. It's still not ideal.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen Swiss do a form of that. Like, she's really frustrated. And so she'll, like, do the boneless thing and, like, flat down, you know, and, like, hit her head a couple times. And then I know to give her some love or whatever. But that's typically correlated when, like, I can tell that she's tired. And so when Buddy's acting that way, I'm like, I don't know what I should be doing. I don't know. I just feel like, should I film this and show a doctor?
Always film it.
I did.
For amusement or for medical purposes.
That would have your approval. I did.
Oh, yeah. So, I had an interesting story from this week. So, Jamie's been a little bit grumpier and he's had more gas than usual, I think is the reason why he's been upset. So, we tried the Windy for the very first time, which we talked about the nose Frida previously. Yeah. So the brand Frida Baby, they make a Windy gas passer. You guys ever seen this?
Do you stick something up their butt?
You do.
Oh my
god! It came in a pack, so I got this. So I got this Frida Baby starter pack that had the nose Frida and like the Windy, and then it had like a little head scraper, like eczema thing.
For the cradle cap.
Yeah, for a cradle cap. It had something else I don't remember now. But
I have so many questions and I'm just resisting asking.
I know, this is crazy. This is crazy.
I'll explain how it went. I had no idea how it was going to go. But, so it's shaped like a little tube, and it has like a really, really small end, and then it has a bigger end. And so you just kind of like...
Is this like shaped like the Frida, like the nose Frida?
No.
So people that... Okay.
No.
I'm like,
it's like
what part goes in your mouth is what I'm trying to
no, that's actually what TJ said. That when I first said, I was like, oh, it's the same people that make the notes for it, and he's like, wait, what?
Where are we going with this?
No.
Hey, people were something up your baby's butt, and then like you're.
But I mean,
Well, what do you use your mouth for?
Is there a filter?
Okay, so no filter, no. So it's like a little kind of a trumpet looking shape. Anyways, so you just like massage the belly from the top down to kind of get the gas bubbles moving or whatever. And then you lubricate the small end with coconut oil and then kind of pull his feet up to his stomach. Like
a bicycle, but both at the same time?
Yeah, just both at the same time. And then you just stick it in and you just wait. And it says, wait for the whistle. And on the instructions it says, wait for the whistle and have a diaper ready. And I was like, okay, cool.
And have a diaper ready.
So I did it. I did it and I heard like a little one and I'm like, oh, like he's really upset. I don't think that's the whole thing, right? And so then I look in it and it's like filled with poop.
Oh my gosh!
So I took it out because I'm like, this isn't gonna get anything, right? It's like it's clogged, filled with poop. And then I got another one to try it one more time. And that second one, and I did the massaging again. And so maybe I didn't massage it enough the first time. But, oh my gosh, yes. Like, tons of whistles, quote unquote whistles. And then, he started to poop again. So I was like, okay, I'll take it out. And then he pooped 3 times and had more gas come out. I mean, like, there was some serious clogging going on. And he felt so much better afterwards. It was super gross. I wasn't expecting that much, so I wasn't quite prepared. And so I called my husband over and I was like, get some paper towels, help me out. But we had it handled. Next time I'll be more prepared. But yeah, it was really helpful for him. Like my husband, forever the skeptic, is like, well, maybe he just would have passed that on his own. You don't know. And I'm like, you know what? It gave him relief in the moment. Yeah. And that's what matters to me, that he just felt better in that moment. So I will continue to use them. And, that was one success, and maybe we'll have more success. But it was better to me than trying something that he could ingest or, whatever. Like, I've heard a lot of things about like gripe water and stuff like that, which I'm not against trying, but I wanted to try something that was just like totally natural, and it was, and it helped. So yeah, it was not for the faint of heart. If you don't like sucking snot through the nose, Frida, I would say stay away from the Windy. But it worked.
Oh my gosh,
it worked.
Awesome.
So if you want to give it a try,
we I don't know if I should tell this. I'll tell it. So when Emmett was little, he had a butt. His butt was super burnt for a while.
Like from
Desitin. We found out he was allergic to Desitin. That's right. Which is another part of the story we can talk about later. But when his butt was really burnt, he would just poop like pea-sized poops. Just probably like upwards of 20 to 30 times a day.
That's right, you posted about that.
It was so horrible. And at night too, he would get like 5 minutes of sleep because he would poop and it would burn his butt, and then we'd have to change it, and then he'd poop again, just little tiny amounts. And so what we started doing, I don't know why we started doing, to dry his butt. Someone was like, blow dry their butts to help like dry it out so that it's not wet and getting worse. So we started blow drying, and he started pooping. And we're like, we found a solution. So we would hold his legs up. One person would blow dry, and he would just poop like a crazy person. And we did that a bunch of times a day so that he would have big poops, so we weren't changing a bunch of diapers. Yeah. So if your kids are struggling to poop, maybe try blow drying their butt.
Did you put it on the what is it called? Like the cool setting or just warm low?
We would switch between warm and cool. We'd never go to the hot setting because that's too hot for a butt. Yeah, we would go to warm, and then it would kind of get warm, and then we'd switch to cool and do blow dry cool for a while, and then blow dry warm.
Oh, I was gonna comment on when you said your husband, the forever critic, he could have passed it on his own. Well, there's a lot of things that pass on their own, quote unquote, right? Some sooner than later, some in healthier or not so healthy ways. Kind of like kidney stones can pass eventually too, but why do we want to wait for that? So I'm all for, yes, there's a difference between like instant gratification and letting things take their own course, but if somebody's in pain, then help move it along, like I'm all for healthy bowel movements,
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a lot of
Yes.
feelings on that, Phil. It's kind of like that, like, oh, just let your body do its thing. And I'm like, maybe it's not doing its thing right.
Yeah. Maybe it needs help this time.
Yeah. You know, if God wanted us to have help, we would have been born with blow dryers and Wendy's.
Yes.
Just kidding.
That's right.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing. That was a fun update.
Yeah, that was awesome. So I wanted to talk about this product that we've been really loving. We tried a bunch of different socks for Emmett, and every single pair he could get off within minutes on it, because he's just a kicker. He would kick them off. And so we tried like Nike brand. We tried, what's the CC one I was talking about?
Oh, I think it's Champion.
Champion brand. We tried just a bunch of different that we got hand-me-downs, and none of them would stay. And then I got onto Amazon, and we tried a few different from Amazon too, but these were the best that I found. They're just called, they're non-skid anti-slip crew socks with grips. And I like them because they go up really high, and they have like, what is that called on the inside? Ribbing?
So the grip rate.
Grip, yeah. So it stays up, and he does not get them off. They stay on for hours, and he's crawling, so it's kind of a critical time to decide whether these socks are good or not, and they stay on him. So we will have that linked for you somewhere.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
Show notes.
And on our website.
Okay, so I will go ahead and get into my story. So with Ian and I, we'd been married for about 2 years when we decided that we wanted to start trying to have a baby. And I think that was about a year sooner than he wanted and about a year later than I wanted. So that was our compromise. And I got off of birth control. I feel like I'm a pretty open, maybe too open when it comes to things like that. Like I told people I'm getting off birth control and we're going to start trying to have a baby. And I was just so excited about it. So I told a lot of people, and then it was that month. So I did ovulation test kits. I would every day pee on this thing, stick it into the test indicator, and it would give me the results. And so we went off of that, and the first month I was able to get pregnant really easy. And then, well, how we found out, we went to my hometown, and my whole family was there just for like a 4th of July celebration thing in my hometown, and I took the test and saw the results with my whole family.
You mean the pregnancy test, right?
The pregnancy test, yes. So I had not taken any tests before that. Well, I took one, but it wasn't. It was undecided, like unclear.
It's like a magic 8-ball.
Yes.
Ask again.
Exactly. So we took the test, and I took the one that said pregnant or not pregnant, and it said pregnant. And I think that was the most fun. Like, I want to do that every time, just because I had this huge community that loved me to celebrate with me. So that was fun. And then my first trimester was super easy. Through my pregnancy, I would have like surprise pukes. So probably once a month, I would just be sitting there and feel all of a sudden like I'm going to puke. And then I would run to the bathroom, I would puke, and then I would feel fine, which I don't think is normal. But that was me. But other than that, also the first sign that I knew I was pregnant where my boobs hurt so bad. They were so sensitive.
Would you feel comfortable like describing that? Because I didn't have that, and people were like, "Oh, it's a telltale sign. Everybody knows." I'm like, I don't know. And so I didn't know if that was like. Obviously, I feel like I'm on the more abnormal side, so I'm curious. Like, what was it like?
It was just like how would I explain, like tenderness? Did you ever get pain when your boobs got bigger, like when you went through puberty?
No.
Oh, when they're full of milk. When they're full of milk.
My boobs did.
I felt like my boobs were
tiny
full of milk.
daggers.
Yeah,
And
like when they
also
were let down
at the same time.
Like when you're. Oh,
No,
we
like-
I don't have let down. So I don't know.
That's right. Okay, but like when they were
like engorged would be the term.
Yes.
Like
I did have a little bit of engorgement,
Okay.
and that's similar. That's a similar feeling. And my nipples felt like they were being put through a cheese grater.
Yes,
Oh.
I actually use that exact analogy.
Yes,
That's
like,
exactly
it
what
was
feels like
so
a cheese grater.
Bad.
Yeah,
And I was
so terrible.
trying to work out, and it was so sensitive, and I was like, I'm pretty sure they're bleeding. Like, I can't do this. And they weren't. But that's the first sign I knew I was pregnant, because otherwise I didn't get any nausea, like I said, and Nothing else.
Was that before you took the test?
No, this was after.
Okay.
But I was like, I don't think I'm pregnant because I'm not feeling anything for a couple weeks after I found out. And we didn't want to go to the doctor because it was still too early. And so once I got that sign, I was like, okay, this might be real.
Yeah.
This might be a real thing.
How far into your pregnancy was that?
When my boobs started hurting?
Yeah.
I think I found out when I was, I'm trying to remember, 2 weeks along. 2 weeks along, whatever that was. And then 2 weeks later. So
Okay.
at my
4-ish.
first, at the month pregnancy point is when I started to get symptoms.
And isn't that pretty early to find out you're pregnant? I mean, from what I've heard. I mean,
that's
that's
the first day technically that you were supposed to, that you would
you were tracking at the time. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you glad you found out that early, or do you think that's more agonizing because you had such longer time theoretically to wait because you knew earlier?
It was so wonderful in the beginning that I loved that I found out early.
Yeah.
Like, I loved reading all the information and, like, just in taking in everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad I found out early.
That's great.
Yes. I wish I would have gone into labor earlier. I think that's what I wish. I wish I wouldn't have gone to... Well, I'll tell that part. So, then we did a gender reveal party. Brittany was able to go, and you were very pregnant at the time.
Yeah, I can't even remember how much, but I'm sure. It's
Very.
kind of a blur.
We have a video.
Okay.
It was very. I don't know how much either, but and then I'll have to go back and look at it because it was in the summer, so you couldn't have been. It
That's
was
right.
I think it was close to Halloween-ish.
I was like, I'm pregnant with twins big, but
Yeah.
maybe not ready to pop big.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
something like
that's
that.
true. Yeah. And that was super fun. We did confetti cannons and did it with, again, a bunch of family and friends.
By the way, the confetti is still in the trees.
I know.
It's like
It
a
was
party
so
all the time.
bad. I had to go out. So we have this common area behind our houses, kind of a park thing, and we did it there, and I had no idea what, like, havoc this confetti would cause. I went out for weeks, every day, for weeks, and picked up confetti, and it's still just, it's like multiplied. It's having babies.
Yeah.
It's having its own babies.
It's all
So,
in the nature of it.
never again. But the party was fun. And if you know me, don't tell me secrets because I'm horrible at secrets. I told everyone. Eden wanted to wait until 12 weeks, and I was just telling everyone. Because
I feel like you can't fault somebody, especially the mother,
yes.
for like that's super great.
And that was my opinion too. Like, I just wanted people to know. I think there's always the idea that you should wait till 12 weeks to tell people in case you have a miscarriage. And Eden and I had this conversation, and he said, and I said, no, I do want to tell people that I trust and love that I'm pregnant, because if I have a miscarriage, I want support.
Right.
And I want them to celebrate with me until that point. I want this life to be celebrated. And then if we lose the baby, I want it to be mourned with me. I don't want to be alone in this.
Right.
I understand waiting to post on social media because there may not be a community out there that loves and supports you like your friends and family. It may be a different platform. For me, I just wanted to tell people, so I did.
Yeah, which I just want to interject. I used to have that opinion like it was a rule, like you were in the wrong almost if you told before, like, oh, how risky. And then I adapted to, I'd say understand, because I feel like this is more accurate. Like, it is totally that individual's call. Like, you could have told people the day you were pregnant and there would be literally nothing wrong with that. You know, it's not, in my opinion, not oversharing. I mean, everyone has their opinions about pregnancy and just depending on the circumstance, but I just feel like it's kind of more of a societal judgment thing to say when somebody should or shouldn't share news.
Someone I know, I remember we were looking on social media and they were talking to me and they were like, oh, this mom posted and she's only 8 weeks along. How irresponsible.
Oh.
And I said, why? And she said, well, what if she loses the baby? And I said, then she loses the baby. Like, does that no longer a part of her life?
As if they're directly correlated. If you tell people, you might lose the baby.
Yeah.
Or,
right.
like,
or
have
like,
nothing to do with each other.
This is not real unless you make it past that point, and then it can be real. And I'm like, no, it's real in their life right now. So if they want to tell people, they get to tell people right now. And that's where I started, because I had that same idea in my mind of 12 weeks. You have to wait 12 weeks. And then once I started asking the question why in my mind, I realized I don't want to wait that long. I want to tell people when I want to tell them.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, there's a little bit of my opinion on that. So, things were going good. We had decided early on that we wanted to do a home birth. And so we looked around, we went to a couple birth centers, looked at different midwives, and we decided on our midwife. She does strictly home births. And we had known a few other people that had used her, and we met with her and just loved her, fell in love right away. She was awesome. All of my appointments were at my house.
That's so great.
Yes, it was so nice.
It was so nice, especially at the end.
Yes.
Like, don't want to move.
Yes. Through the whole thing, like, I would just chill at my home. Like, I could clean, I could cook, and I just, or watch TV until she showed up. And then I always felt like it was very personal. I saw my midwife every time. She did everything, right? There was no, like, foreign nurse. I don't know how it works in a hospital because this is my first child, but I've heard that a lot of times you'll get different doctors if your doctor's not there, or nurses will help you. And I just love the experience of having my midwife there every time. So we got our first ultrasound, actually not with our midwife. We used what's called the Pregnancy Resource Center, and it's a free to anyone resource center up in Salt Lake. And we went there and got our first ultrasound, and it was so cool. I think the first time at least for me, the first time I got to see my baby was like every Christmas combined into one thing. It was just amazing that was real and that I was creating a life. So that was awesome. And we got our other ultrasound at which is my GP, my general practitioner's office. And that was fun too, because I knew him really well. He was like, I'm 90% sure what this is. And we were going to throw a party. So we're like, we'll just do it. And then if it's not, whatever, we'll have a video. We hired a videographer for our gender reveal, and so we're like, we'll have a video of the wrong gender reveal, and it'll be fine.
Great. Yeah. And I just absolutely loved your video. Like, I don't know if you knew the video. How do you
videographer?
Yeah.
Thank
you. I don't know if you knew that person beforehand, but they just did really great. So you chose really well.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I'd watched some of her videos, but I did. I liked the way that it was just, I felt like all of her videos were very celebratory, and that's how I wanted our gender reveal to be. So that was fun. And my second trimester really was, I think for most people, their second trimester is, in general, and I am making generalization, but for most people, it's the easiest. Because for a lot of people, the nausea is better. You're not gigantic and in pain yet. You're just kind of have this cute little belly and having fun and living life and talking about your baby. So that was awesome. And then at around, I think it was 37 weeks. So before going into this point in my pregnancy, I'd like to mention that I'll be talking about some anxiety and depression, specifically some triggers that I had. And so if you are going through that right now, this may not be the best time for you to listen to this episode, because I will go into some specific details. That being said, I would like to mention that my mom, Susan, will be joining us for this portion, and my husband, Eden. And the reason why I want to bring them on is because for my third trimester, I was really struggling and kind of just surviving. And I feel like a lot of it I have forgotten, if that makes sense. It's hard for me to even describe what I went through because I'm no longer going through it. So I figured they could be here to kind of supplement and help give a more accurate description of what it was like. So around 37 weeks, just heading into my, not 37, because you only go to 40. I think it was like 31.
Yeah. Although, didn't it feel like 100 or something?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It felt like,
to all of us,
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
for
the
anyone who's
pregnancy in
experienced
history, actually.
But just heading into my third trimester of pregnancy, whenever that is, Ian and I were just having a discussion one night. A discussion about eternity. And I've never, like, eternity is a weird concept to talk about. It's very philosophical. And I always just thought, who cares? Like, it'll be what it's going to be, and moved on. But this night that we were talking about it, I couldn't get it off of my mind. And it was making me scared or have energy, or I didn't know what I was feeling. But I dropped it. We dropped the conversation because it was getting late, and Eden went to bed. And I just continued to feel like, I don't know, like adrenaline almost is the best way I could describe it. And so I was like, I just need to get some of this energy out and I'll feel better. So I got out of bed and I started trying to clean. And I was putting some clothes away in our closet, and all of a sudden, I felt my heart start to race, and I was shaky, and the walls, literally in my mind, were just closing in on me. And so I laid down in the fetal position and stayed there for probably an hour. I just couldn't move. And I was pleading, praying. I thought maybe I was being taken over by a demon, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. So finally, after about an hour, I was able to get out of that position I was in, and I went and got my husband, and I said, I need a blessing right now, which is something the men in our church are able to do. And so he got up and gave me a blessing, and I still was feeling horrible. Like, it did not take what I was feeling away at all. So from that point, I think it was kind of just a downward spiral into this deep mental illness, anxiety and depression. And so about a week in, we started looking for answers right away because it was so severe. I was sensitive to darkness, so I would walk into a room, even in random houses, like friends' houses or neighbors or people in my church, and I would have to turn their lights on and open their blinds.
And I might interject, you had to have the TV on all night long.
Yes.
The entire, because when I stayed with you, I would think, oh my gosh, she is running the TV.
Yeah.
But
and
you had to have that light.
Yeah.
That light
Yeah.
and that...
And I could only watch one show.
Right, one show.
Do you remember what it was, Mom?
It was, no.
You did
What
not
was
remember.
it? What was it?
It was New Girl.
New Girl.
New Girl.
Yeah,
At
that's
least
right.
you picked a good one.
Yeah,
New Girl. Yeah.
I know, if you don't like New Girl, I'm sorry, but it was all I could watch. And it wasn't my choice. It's not like I just really loved the show. It was because it was the only thing that wouldn't send me into panic attacks. And I think we talked about that a little bit on the podcast, right?
I don't remember. I know we talked about it in real life.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this in
IRL.
real life, yes. Brittany asked me why that show, and honestly, I don't know, but my guess is that it was because it's a light comedy, and I think there were a lot of concepts about life that made me scared, and I think because they were going into their 30s and didn't have life figured out, and yet they were still happy, it made me feel okay about life.
Yeah.
Like life wasn't over.
Right.
So that was good. So my mom did come to stay with me, and really quick, the story behind that. So when I first got anxiety, she was on a cruise. And I have always confided in my mom for everything. And so her being gone while I was going through this was so challenging. And in retrospect, I wonder if I needed to go through that without her for that first little bit. I don't know. But I just remember being in agony because I felt like there was no way to get help. And so she got off her cruise, and I called her. And I said, hey, Mom, I think I'm dealing with some anxiety and depression, trying to play it cool. I was like, do you think you could come stay with me? And she said, no, I don't. I have a lot going on right now. I don't think I can come stay with you. I'll come stay with you when it's time to have the baby, but you've still got a while. I said, okay, that's fine. And then the next day I called her again, and I said, Mom, I'm really struggling. Can you, when do you think you can come down? What's the earliest? She said, well, maybe a week or two. Does that work? Can you give me a week or two? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And an hour later, I called her back. I said, Mom, I can't wait a week or two. I'm not going to make it. And I need you to come, because I can't be alone. And she said, okay, let me see what I can do. And so an hour later, she called me and she said, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Your brother's going to take care of the responsibilities at home. I'm coming. And it was the beginning of a long journey for the two of us.
The three of us.
The three of us, that's true. So, at that point, we really hadn't found anything that had worked. I was on some medications, but they weren't doing a whole lot. And
we were literally trying everything we could think of to try. We were trying different foods. We were trying walking. We were trying
supplements.
I'm trying to think of everything
supplement
that we went through. We tried meditation, which was a
yoga, exercise. We tried vitamin B12, a good probiotic, a good... What else did we do, Eden? I mean, inositol, choline.
Yeah, buspirone. We had like the medication for
hydroxyzine,
just about everything the doctors mentioned. But yeah, nothing really took it away. And also, I think...
Or even made me stable. Nothing made me stable. And nothing even close.
And I think to understand, Codee says she's forgotten what she was like. And we kind of talked about this. If you take in your mind something that frightens you, your biggest fear in life, say it's being buried alive, which is one of mine, and you put that in front of you every day, all day long, to where you're just afraid all the time. That's one piece of it, that you're afraid. The other piece is, I would say to Codee, we're going to get you through this. We're going to get you through this. And she would never believe me. Mm-hmm. There was so much despair in her that I'm never going to be normal again. I'm never going to feel normal again, Mom. I'm going to have to live with this. Me. Oh, it wasn't
Something
you.
Had, like, I have never been, and for you guys to know, I had never experienced a day of anxiety or depression in my life before this.
Yeah.
I had no idea what
you were a kid that I don't think you ever were depressed, ever. Growing up, you were the most positive, carefree, fun-loving, happy person. And I'll quickly tell you this. I remember my husband calling me after about a week, it probably had been a week, maybe 2 weeks, and saying, "Are you going to be able to come home?" And I remember you were having an anxiety attack, and I said, "I want you to talk to Codee. Just talk to her, honey." And you spent probably...
I think it was a half an hour.
Yeah, about a half an hour on the phone with him. And when I got back on, he said, "There's no way you can come home. Mm-mm. You just can't. You can't leave her. You can't come home."
Yeah, well, when people would ask me, they would say, well, I would talk to me. I was very open. I'd say, "I've been struggling with anxiety and depression." And they would say, "Well, what are you worried about, honey? Are you worried about taking care of the baby? Is that, because you'll be a great mom." And I'd say, "Oh no, I think I'll be a great mom." I didn't think I would be a great mom at that point.
You didn't,
but I wasn't worried about keeping a baby alive.
Yeah.
I was scared about the fact that I was not myself. I would constantly live in fear about the concept of time. I was like, solve that for me. Explain why I'm constantly afraid of the concept of time or eternity, or why I have visions of my teeth rotting out. And do you remember having that conversation in the car, Eden?
Yeah.
When I said to you, "Oh, what did I say?"
Well, and going along with that, I think initially this was a learning curve for all of us because a lot of the things were irrational.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we couldn't tell her that, though. It was real to her. And so what we learned is the best thing with anxiety was to be very positive and positive reinforcement, and telling her, even though she didn't believe it, that was the only thing that got her through like an attack, was saying, "Hey, this will be over after you're done, after you have this baby. You're going to go back to normal. This is not real, and it's going to be okay." Just being really reassuring, because she didn't believe that, even though some of the things were really, really irrational, and it was every day.
Yeah, I remember a conversation where she said, "Mom, you're going to die. You're going to die, and I'm going to have to live without you." And it wasn't just the conversations. She would become hysterical. She would be crying and crying and crying.
Oh, I cried every day for hours.
Hours and hours and hours. I mean, this was so severe. It's hard to even explain, isn't it, Eden, how...
And I would shake.
Yes.
I would shake.
Shake, yep.
Well, and part of it, too,
it was crazy.
Why Codee needed her mom here was because I was at work, and she could not be left alone. If she was left alone, it was actually bad for her. Mm-hmm. And anxiety and depression, they kind of correlate sometimes, but this was a severe case of anxiety. We sometimes treat it as depression and try to get her out of the house and out to do things, and that was wrong. Like, anxiety, we had to treat it differently and talk to her and figure things out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we kind of took shifts. I think
you had to.
Codee's mom just took her throughout the whole day, and then when I got home, then I had to talk to her, because she would constantly be crying and having these attacks, pretty much.
And I could tell how hard it was on you guys too, and that broke me. I think that was hard, seeing someone that I was putting people I love through
Well, you probably said I'm sorry 1,000 times during those 2 months.
'Cause
I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom.
I didn't want to be the person that I was.
It gives you a whole new outlook on mental illness, on people who go through depression. You can't just say, oh, well, pick yourself up, kick yourself in the pants and just come on, just move on. That doesn't work. They have this stuff going on in their brain, and it is not going to just go away.
And it's not a choice.
Oh, absolutely not.
It is so not a choice. So for any of you that are out there that are listening and believe that depression or anxiety are a choice, I promise you with all of my heart that I never would have chosen that. I would have done anything to get out of that. I did everything I could think to get out of that. And then at some point I had to realize that this wasn't a choice. I didn't get to choose this or not.
We finally found the CBD oil. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
So I'll talk about that a little bit. But Brittany, do you remember times that I came over to your house and would cry with, well, not with you. You would be normal and I'd be crying.
Well, and I can't remember. I think it was right after I had delivered.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't know if this is just a reflection of being either dense or in my own fog, but I was like, cool, Codee just wants to hang out with me. What a nice friend. And she's like, can I come over? And I was like, what's going to happen?
Sure.
She's like mad at me, and so I'm like, oh, she's supposed to hang out? And so like, we're hanging out, and I'm like, this is great.
She's crying, but it's...
I'm like, she's just emotional.
Yeah.
She's holding my beautiful baby. Like, obviously, I was a little bit distracted, and then later when you told me about the anxiety, I was like, oh. I just felt so
and I think
dense,
I didn't want to be a burden on people, so I had to, before my mom was able to come, or she had to go back for a period of time, back to Laramie, to take care of a few things. I would stay at just friends' houses during the day because I couldn't be alone. And I think I would tell them I had anxiety or depression, but that was an okay time. Usually the time when I would become really catatonic, I think is the word, would be when the sun would start to go down. That was the hard time for me. So most of the time you wouldn't see that. From what I've heard as well, most people don't want to talk about postpartum depression or pregnancy depression, anxiety. When they're going through that, it's something they, for whatever reason, feel like they need to hide. And I was very open. I would tell everyone because I felt like otherwise they just thought I hated them or cried all the time. Like, at least they would understand that I was struggling on the inside when they would see my outward emotion or expressions.
Because it wasn't just being a moody pregnant lady.
Yes.
It was a whole different ballgame.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I think at some point we were trying everything and nothing was getting better. And we had heard about CBD oil. My midwife wasn't super game for it. She didn't know a lot about it. And so we kind of didn't try it because of that. Because she wasn't promoting it, I guess. And one night, I remember shaking in the tub. I was like having a bad attack. And I said to Eden, I said, you're either going to have to kill me or put me in a coma because I'm not going to make it. Like, the obsessive thoughts I was having were taking over. I was losing control of my thoughts. And I didn't want to die. I was terrified of dying. But I also recognized the fact that I was losing control of my mind. And so I think at that point, we realized we needed to do something. We were either going to have to put me into an institution or find something that worked, like anything.
Yeah, and so she would come to me and it's just another anxiety moment. And so with a rational mind, I'm like, hey, we're not going to take any drastic measures, but let's try to figure something out. We had already gone to, urgent care before and nothing really happened. And so we were like, we can do that again, but there's nothing that's going to come from that. We were lucky enough to get some medication the first time. And then we decided to just call our midwife and, try to see if there's anything we can do. And I think the thought specifically came to my mind, like, we have to try CBD oil. If this is like the last thing that we have, like, we're going to have to try it.
I didn't want to.
Yeah, I think
I was over it.
You were done. You're like, no, that's not going to work. I'm like, I get that.
To give you perspective, again, we've been trying everything. I was taking 23 pills a day. 23. Mm-hmm. It was, my whole life was just supplements and medication, and nothing helped. Every time they'd say, try this, and we try this, and then for a few hours, I would think, oh, this is working, and then it would an anxiety attack would come on. And it was so discouraging every time to think that something is going to work and then have it not work.
I'm sure that contribute to your anxiety as well.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Thinking in the future, wondering and despairing already before it even.
Yeah. Yep. It just it gave me no hope. I thought, this is it forever. This is it forever. Nothing is working for me.
Well, the thing about that is everything that Codee loved and made her happy, like, was stripped away, and that's why.
Oh yeah, I think the thing that triggered this really bad anxiety attack, my brother and sister-in-law had just delivered twin babies. And I normally love babies. I love babies. I've always loved babies. And so I thought, oh, this will make me feel better if I go see these babies in Salt Lake. And so I drove with my sister, and it wasn't a good situation because we hit traffic, right? And so the freeway had traffic, and so I'm sitting in this car, and it's getting dark, and then we drive up to this hospital with all these sick people, and a hospital in general is just
depressing anyway. Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah, like I think it. And so I went up to hold my brother's babies, and I think my brother handed me a baby, and I could not even look at the baby. I couldn't force myself to look at the baby, and so I held this, just feeling nothing. I lost connection. Do you remember that, Eden? Mm-hmm. I lost connection to everything and everyone I loved, and that's so horrible. That's what makes life worth it, is that feeling that connection or that love or that sense of purpose. And I lost everything. And so holding this baby and feeling nothing for it, feeling fear at this baby. And then knowing that I was supposed to be a mom, that I had a child coming, that I was supposed to be a mom to, that I wanted to be a mom to, that just sent me down a spiral. And I don't know exactly like why that exact moment was the thing that triggered it, but I went over to my mom and I whispered, tried to be very discreet, and I said, I need you to take the baby. Yeah, I can't do this. And then we went home, and that was the worst part of it. Yeah, that was when it got really bad. So we tried CBD oil, and we tried a few different kinds, and it made me stable. It did not fix it.
Take it away.
Mm-hmm. But it made me stable. And if I ever missed it, it would come back severely, right? Like I remember, Mom, there were times you'd have to tell me you'd ask me if I took my CBD oil. Because
you would forget, and then I would see it coming on.
Yeah.
Or you try to taper off.
Yeah, you'd say, I don't need to take as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they wanted me to taper off because they were worried about the effects it might have on labor.
Yeah.
And so...
Is it because it was I don't want to call it experimental. They just didn't know.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
kind of a newish thing.
Mm-hmm.
They said it could slow labor, so we were doing a home birth and a lot of factors from our midwife.
So I tried to taper off, and every time it was horrible. I don't know why I tried. Yeah. Well, because I didn't want to be on CBD oil for the rest of my life. I wanted to get rid of this. And so anytime I started to feel like myself a little bit, I thought, I'm back.
I can do this alone.
I'm back. And I think anyone who's experienced a mental illness, your mentality when you're not feeling yourself is completely different than your mentality when you're feeling better. I would start to feel like myself again and think, wow, I'm strong. I can do this. I'm thinking in my right mind. I'm good. And then I tried to taper off, and then I would go back into this state of despair. And it was so frustrating for me and for, I'm sure, my family. Did you guys feel like discouraged and
I think I don't think we were ever over it, but I think there was a lot of discouragement in seeing that, you could not function without it at that point. And you think, I mean, I know you said, I'm never going to be the same. I'm never going to get over this. And we would say, you'll get over this. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, oh my gosh, is she ever going to be the same? Is this girl that I knew that was so
for
different?
24 years, or 23 years of my life.
Is she ever going to be normal again? And it worried me. And I'm sure, Eden, you felt the same way.
Yeah.
You're married to this girl. Yeah. She's a completely different person.
Yeah, we would tell her that she's going to get over it, but we weren't sure. We thought maybe she'll have to carry this the rest of her life, but we couldn't tell that to her.
No.
Yeah. That's...
Although one night I remember, do you remember me saying to you when you said, I can't do this, I just can't do this? Do you remember me saying, what are we going to do, Codee?
Yeah.
You've got to do this. I had to actually get kind of mean.
You grabbed my face.
Yeah. And I said, you have to do this. You can't just give up.
Yeah.
You've got a baby. You've got, and that works once or twice, but you're not going to be able to do that every time.
Yeah, most of the time it was just
reassurance,
love,
reassurance and love, and we're going to get through this. Yeah.
But bottom line, we were very pro CBD after it was working.
Yes.
And we would tell everyone, like, oh, you have anxiety or depression? Get CBD oil, because this literally is what saved my wife.
Yeah,
so.
Saved my life. It saved my life. And I think, too, a blessing in my life is that the bill passed legalizing CBD oil in Utah weeks before I tried it.
Yeah.
We're talking, this was brand new, available to me, and it was the only thing that worked. So I think that...
You still can't get it in every dosage. I mean, there's like a limit to the dosage you can use legally, or that you can buy legally in Utah. Because I know someone who actually goes out of state for the higher dosage.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because we got probably the highest
that we could get.
Oh, yeah. We had to, and I had to take the highest dose of so it was a dropper, and I would just fill up the little syringe thing and then put the liquid under my tongue and hold it for 30 seconds to however long. I would hold it a little bit longer to get it into my bloodstream, and then I would just swallow it. So that was that. We were dealing with that, and hey, if you're out there and you're struggling right now, please don't give up. Please continue on, because after being through it, there's light again. There's hope. I'm back to myself. I love life, and you'll find something. You don't have to be hopeless. So there's my little plug for that, and there are people out there who will help you and love you if you just talk to them. So we, at a week overdue, I got pups. Yeah, so if you don't know what pups are, it's basically the most horrible skin rash ever. And it's pregnancy related. And I got it.
It's like hives.
A week before my due date. It's basically hives all over your body. And it started in my stretch marks and then just spread everywhere. And so on top of the anxiety and depression, I was dealing with that. And then on top of everything else, I went a week over my due date. So I had pups 2 weeks before I was pregnant and 2 weeks after I delivered. And so a week after my due date, we went into the hospital because I was like, I'm literally done. I'm going to cut this baby out of my stomach if we don't have it now. And they said, well, you're not dilated enough, so we're going to give you some, they gave me an Ambien.
Yes.
They gave me an Ambien, sent me home to sleep, because I wasn't sleeping because I was so itchy. And, just so you know, this is a funny thing. Warm baths would help my anxiety and depression, and heat of any kind made my pups worse.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lose-lose situation.
We kind of had to decide, what's worse at the moment? Is my anxiety and depression worse, or are my pups worse? And we decide hot bath or cold shower, depending on that. So we did go into labor. My water broke the night after we went to the hospital. They gave me an Ambien. I think my body had just gotten some rest, and so my water broke. And I was doing great. I was having contractions, and we were timing them. I actually went to my niece's birthday party and was having contractions there, and just stuff was coming out, and I had a pad on, but we're good. And then as I was leaking, I noticed it started to change color a little bit, and I thought, this is fine, I think. It could be just the color of my amniotic fluid, and then it started to turn more green, and then particles were coming out, and I knew I had talked to some people about what meconium looked like, and so I was pretty sure that's what it was, and I sent my midwife a picture, and she said, yep, that's meconium, home birth is off the table. No question, you have to go to the hospital. And I think that was hard, but I also think that it was, in retrospect, the best thing we could have done because of how difficult my labor was. So we went into the hospital, they put me on Pitocin because of the meconium. They wanted to get him here. And I labored about 14 or 15 hours naturally, right?
Yeah.
And
you were progressing.
Yeah, I was progressing. I progressed to 5, and then they turned up the Pitocin. And it went from, I could feel that it wasn't progressing anymore. It was just insane. I wasn't having any time between contractions, and my contractions were so intense. And I stopped progressing. And they checked me, and I said, okay, if the next time they check me, I haven't progressed at all, I want an epidural. So they checked me, I hadn't progressed, I got the epidural. X amount of hours later, we started pushing. I pushed for 2.5 hours, and he was turtling. I don't know if... So
the head would come out, and then it'd go back in.
So I would push, he'd come out a little bit, and then he'd go back in.
We did that for literally 2.5 hours. Yeah. I'm surprised she didn't have a C-section. I really
I was
am,
like
because
yelling at my doctor. I was like, pull him out! And he's like, I can't. There's nothing to pull out. It was scaring me.
Do your job!
Yeah.
Well, he's like molding his hand into his head.
And trying to
stop.
Stop
doing that.
Yeah.
You're going to give him brain damage. You're just trying to get this head out.
Yeah. So
it wasn't easy.
We were very against. We were like, we don't want
episiotomy.
Oh, yeah.
Episiotomy.
We were very against episiotomy. We were very against epidurals. We were very against Pitocin. We were very against hospital births, and we were very against, or we wanted delayed cord clamping. Yeah. There's in for your information. Yeah. So got the epidural, we had to do the episiotomy, just a small cut, only a couple stitches, nothing too crazy. We did have the baby in the hospital, and when he came out, he wasn't breathing. I remember, actually I don't remember this because I was so exhausted.
Yeah.
But
what did he say to you, Eden? He said
he came out and he was getting ready to cut the cord, and he said, he gave it to Eden, and he said, do you want to cut the cord? And Eden said, no, we want to do delayed cord clamping. And the doctor said, it's been delayed. Cut the cord. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's been delayed. We're doing it.
It's delayed enough.
Cut the cord. I think you knew, Eden, right? That he wasn't breathing. You could kind of...
No. I was like, why aren't we doing it? Okay, he told me to cut it again after I pushed back, so...
I'm doing what he tells me.
I'm going to listen.
Yeah. So, there was that. And then from that point, the first 2 weeks were super hard because of the pups. Mm-hmm. And just sleep deprivation, and still dealing with anxiety and depression. But from that point, things I think got better and better. People always ask me, oh, are you super sore from, like, how's breastfeeding? Is it super painful? And I was like, it's nothing compared to what, like,
I've been through.
For me at least. I was like, I don't even notice the fact that I have stitches down there. That is the, like lowest on the priority list of concerns in my life. And breastfeeding, I've been very lucky that breastfeeding came pretty naturally. He latched on quickly, and I had a lot of milk. So I think this episode's going to be called Light in the Tunnel, and I just think that's so fitting. Or Light in the Darkness.
How long did it take, Codee, until you were back to yourself? I know you stayed on the CBD oil.
It's funny. Yeah, I think I tapered off of CBD oil after about 2 months postpartum. And then I still wasn't feeling awesome, but I would go through these stages. I would think, oh my gosh, I'm feeling like myself again. This is what I was like. And then a few weeks later, I would think, oh, no, this is what it was like. I'm feeling better now. Like, at first, it was just cool that I could sleep through the night, and that I wasn't, like, scratching up my body in the night from having panic attacks. And then it was like, oh, I can go to the store by myself. Like, what is this? I don't have to have someone else at the store with me. And then little by little, and I think about 6 months, I really felt like myself again, back to normal. But it is scary. It's scary thinking that it might come back, but I'm willing to do it again. So sometimes I wonder why, but I am.
And she would have never said that.
Oh, never.
Never said. She was like, I will never do this again. So
Yep.
the fact that she can say that.
Yeah. I remember.
Of course, she hasn't asked us if we do it again.
You guys are just in. You gotta. That's true. And we may have to hire someone else. I don't know. I remember when I was a few days overdue, a friend of ours who hasn't had kids yet, I was talking to him and I said, if you love someone, don't do this to them. Like, if you get married, don't do this to them.
Don't ever.
Irrelevant to them.
It's important. They know Joe.
Yeah.
The world will.
Yeah, the world will now know him. And he was like, huh. And I was like, no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
This is not a joke. Don't do this to them. And he was like, okay. Great. I can't leave.
I'm going to talk to her again.
Yeah,
for a while.
I apologize for it later, but I was so dead serious at the time. I was begging with him not to do this to any other woman because no person deserved what I was going through. But again, the good thing, like the episode says, is there is light in the darkness, and you will get past this time, and I can attest to that. So
thank you so much, Codee, for sharing your experience, and thank you to Eden and Susan for their contribution, not only to today's podcast, but to your life and health. Thank you. We're really grateful for what you shared. Okay, I have the recipe for today, and it's called Chicken Parmesan Meatball Casserole. And this recipe was really good. I did a little bit of substituting, and so when I post it on the website, you'll find it's got some adjustments from the recipe listed. But I will list the original recipe, and I'll rewrite out the recipe as I made it. But the gist of the recipe is you make meatballs out of ground chicken and breadcrumbs with Parmesan cheese and an egg to help hold it together. And then you put it in a casserole dish combined with marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and cooked pasta. Be sure to catch our next episode where we'll have a guest talking about another father's perspective. Check us out at our website, partumthemess.com, and on Instagram and Twitter at partumthemess. And if you like our content and you would like to become our patron and help us support the show, go to patreon.com/partumthemess. Thank you for listening.
Partum the mess.
We're making memories.